Have you got a catchy name for this one? Hello, my name is Will, and this is Exploding Helicopter, the podcast trying to restore balance between helicopters and explosions. After 2014's Godzilla gave us Man vs. Lizard, and 2017's Kong Skull Island gave us Man vs. Monkey, Legendary Pictures decided to finally give audiences some full-on monster-on-monster action. Pushing the fast-forward button on their Monsterverse, the studio decreed that their next picture would pit the Big G against not one but three of his classic Toho-era sparring partners. So on this show we're looking at the film that pits Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra and King Ghidorah against each other in a kaiju movie smackdown. It's 2019's Godzilla, King of the Monsters. To help me review the film, I'm joined by a man who's coming here for either food, a fight, or something more intimate. It's my good friend Nick Rehak. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, and I'm looking forward to this particular discussion because very often, we've known each other a long time, and very often we find ourselves kind of in the same ballpark with the films that we are reviewing. But I think that this show, things might be a little bit different because, we might actually have a Titan-sized fight brewing between ourselves because you are a Godzilla fan and I'm largely sort of indifferent to the franchise.
Yes, very much so. And as we've discussed previously, on episodes of this very program.
Indeed. I mean, you make no bones about your fandom for this character and for this film franchise.
No, absolutely not. Like, if we had video going right now, you would see my little Godzilla Funko Pops. Because I am a 36-year-old male. If you were to look at my shelves of film collections, you would see all the possible Godzilla box sets. I bought the Criterion box set when that came out. I was beyond shocked recently when they did a 4K remaster Criterion did of Godzilla vs. Biollante, which is my favorite Godzilla film. It's just, it allows me to continue to be a kid and stay in touch with that inner child without having to like buy Lego sets and sit around waiting for breakfast to be made. Like, I can throw on a Godzilla film and just feel like a kid again. Like, even watching the older style ones, yeah, it's people in rubber suits, but I don't care. Like, there's something kind of just nostalgic and kind of magical about it that I'll always go back. Now, the more recent Godzilla films that have been put out by like Legendary Pictures, Warner Brothers, stuff like that, it's a mixed bag, I will admit, but it's still fun. Like, it's still so much fun to see just big dumb monsters fighting each other on the big screen. Like, I'm for it. It's like the new Godzilla movie coming out. I don't care. Just give me the date and I'll show up. I'll be there. It'd be no different than saying like, Denis Villeneuve has a new film coming out. Great, I'm there. Don't give me the title. Just give me a date. Same with Godzilla. He's in it. Give me a date. I'm gonna be there.
Just to set the scene here accurately, I mean, you've articulated your clear love and affection for the Big G. I mean, as for myself, there are some films within this franchise that I really love, and there are some that I think are absolutely appalling and terrible. And overall, I'm fairly ambivalent about this character. As I say, I enjoy the films that I enjoy, and then I've got to make no bones about criticizing the ones I don't, and I have no great excitement or otherwise as to whether a new Godzilla film ever emerges. So there's I think we're coming at this from slightly different angles, so could make for an interesting discussion. So let's not postpone that any longer. Let's get stuck into Godzilla, King of the Monsters. So let's see if we can get a handy reminder of which monsters are in this film.
Rodan, Ghidorah, Mothra.
Oh my.
They're everywhere.
It's comforting.
Our planet will perish.
Hang on, kid!
And so will we. Unless we set Godzilla free.
This time we join him.
That's messed up.
Good thing he's on our side.
Beautiful.
Here we go. This is Godzilla's world. We just live in it.
Damn right.
Godzilla, rated PG-13. See the full trailer on YouTube now.
Godzilla, King of the Monsters is set 5 years after the events of Godzilla. The film's main characters are the Russells, a family who have been torn apart by the events of that film. They lost their son in the devastation caused by Godzilla. Unable to process their grief, Carl Chandler has disappeared into the wild to study wolves, while his wife, who's played by Vera Farmiga, cares for their daughter Millie Bobby Brown and works for Monarch, the organisation charged with monitoring and stopping the monsters. Chaos ensues when eco-terrorists kidnap Vera and steal the Orca, a device she's been working on to control the Titans. The terrorists quickly set about releasing the monsters in Monarch's control in order to stop humankind destroying the world. It then falls to Carl Chandler and the agents of Monarch to stop the destruction that the newly released Titans are inflicting on the world. In the cast, we have Sally Hawkins, Vera Farmiga, Carl Chandler, Bradley Whitford, Millie Bobby Brown, Charles Dance, and Ken Watanabe. The film was written and directed by Michael Dougherty, who'd previously made Krampus and wrote Superman Returns. And interestingly, he has not made another film since this one. King of the Monsters had a worldwide box office of $380 million off a budget of $170 million. It has a user rating on IMDb of exactly 6 and a Letterboxd user rating of 2.9 out of 5. So with all of that out of the way, Nick, what did you make of Godzilla, King of the Monsters?
You got to remember, in 2014, Godzilla comes back. Right? And we haven't had a really good Godzilla film in a very long time from the American studios. Well, all of a sudden, here comes a sequel to that film, and we're getting all of our favorites. We're getting Rodan, we're getting Mothra, we're getting King Ghidorah. So going into this, there is an overwhelming bias of liking this film, because here I am thinking I'm never going to see some of my favorites on the big screen in such a visceral and, just incredible way. And we get that with this movie. So from a kaiju standpoint, from a monster standpoint, this movie, it almost has it all. If there was a rogues gallery that somehow came through and we got others like Anguirus and Hedorah, things like that, I'd be singing this film's praises all day long. But much like any Godzilla film, there is a human component to it as well. And when you emailed me and said, we're going to do this movie, I was very excited because it had been a little bit since I've seen the film and I got a chance to dust off the 4K. And by dust off, I mean open up the packaging on the 4K that I bought, throw it into the player and watch it. And I will say, not as strong as I remember it being. It's a fun movie overall. But there are some moments that drag and go on a little long. There are some moments that I feel were truncated, that caused some plot issues. There's some dialogue that's not as great as it could be. But this film also feels just like really ham-fisted with like, I don't want to say B actors, but there's a lot of actors in here that at that time in 2019, like they were all, not all, but like a lot of them were on an upswing. They were on really big TV shows, or they were just in really big Academy Award-winning movies, and it felt like this weird amalgamation of all of that, and I think there's too many people, and a lot of them are just left to do with nothing but kind of repeat the same dialogue over and over again. So while overall the movie is fun, the human component of it kind of takes away from it and makes it not as strong as it could be, at least to me.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of stuff going on in this film, because we have a whole human drama that is playing out within this film, and this film, for better or worse, is also actually trying to I guess you could say, like, honor the original Godzilla and actually be about something. And it's, trying to wrestle with some big, weighty, important themes, most notably climate change and, man's respect or lack of it for the natural world. But for me, none of those elements really quite land amidst all of the CGI pyrotechnics, which actually, I will confess, I think are actually pretty impressive. Let's dig into that, the themes, the big themes that this film is trying to tackle here. I put it to you, Nick, that element of the film, it's kind of laughably bland.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely it is. And I work in the solar industry, right? So obviously I'm pro green energy. I climate change, all that other stuff. Yes, but there's a way to handle it. There's a way to talk about it, and then there's a way to kind of make a metaphor of it and be successful. And the movie doesn't do that because it's very hard to have a take care of Mother Earth and she'll take care of you kind of vibe and not be overly ham-fisted or come across as like disingenuous and like kind of laughable almost at the same time. And the film, it kind of skirts that at times because it's like I'm rolling my eyes a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we get it. We know, but let's do what we came here to do, and that's watch these guys fight. Because that's why we're here. King of the Monsters with an S, not King of the Monster. He's not fighting one, he's fighting a couple here. So let's just get to that. I understand that things aren't great out there, but we're in here in this theater. Let's see him punch. Let's see a couple punches.
Because I think my beef is that you have these eco-terrorists, led by Charles Dance, and we find out very early in the film that Vera Farmiga is in cahoots with them, and they are so appalled by the way man is destroying the natural world that they hatch a plan which is to unleash these titans with the express purpose of having them destroy the world a bit and kind of just sort of knock humankind, I don't know, back into its place. I mean, I'm afraid I can't articulate it that much better than that, mostly because the film can't articulate it much better than that. As a plan, it's, I don't know, I just found it completely wackadoodle.
It's absolutely wackadoodle because that's not what eco-terrorists do, right? Eco-terrorists tend to go to statues and throw green paint, or they find
chain
very
themselves
expensive
to them.
Exactly. They chain themselves to paintings or kind of disrupt and just kind of make a presence of, hey, we're here. So I think the film approaches this from like an extremely unrealistic point of view. And also, if you're looking to do that, what's really the end goal then? What's the sense of going through and just blowing it all to smithereens, if you will, or just letting, the grass come back stronger? What's that really doing? Now, if it was going, like, say, the Avengers route, right? When you had Thanos coming through, his idea was like, what? It's too much on the planet. Let's just take half of the population out. Let's have a little more balance. Let's bring things back a little bit. Okay, I can kind of see them wanting to take control of one or two and wiping out a couple cities. That's a little more understandable. But to just let them out and let them have a fight, like that's not how that works.
And because I find it all a little bit confusing, because in some ways I'm very sympathetic to Charles Dance's and Vera Farmiga's goals here. They're appalled at the way in which man is destroying the environment, which could result in millions of people dying as a consequence of climate change. But their plan involves, as I say, releasing these titans and having millions die as a result of them stomping around the planet. So I mean, it's just I don't look. I mean, sometimes it's a deliberate filmmaker's choice to have characters who are not easily black and white. But I don't know. This just feels like quite dumb and only half thought through, as in terms of like trying to tap into current issues and having characters represent them within this film.
If they did something where they said, hey, we're going to get all of these monsters and we're just going to have them fight in just the United States, and we're going to get rid of all the emissions that are coming from that place. And then you have a thing of like, oh, now we have to race against the clock. We have to find a way to get Godzilla to the U.S., and he's got to get to Boston to take out this monster. He's got to get to Dallas to take out another one. You know what I mean? Like if they're just kind of focusing on one area, sure, that's a little bit different. Or even if you had just kind of more a symbolic, like, hey, Godzilla's fighting back against these man-made machines and stuff. Okay, man versus machine, nature versus machine. You can get some fun out of that. But like you said, to just kind of across the board and very generically almost find a reason to, like, how do we open up this box? Now the box is open. Okay, what are you going to do now that the box is open? I don't know. Let's just find out. And then making it up as you go almost. It just doesn't hit. And again, like we said, like, it just, the message behind it kind of falls flat, because even if you come up with this idea of like, oh, they can terraform and replenish the ecosystem using their natural radiation and stuff. I mean, I guess. But again, that's not what we're here for. We're here to see
science
them
suggests
fight.
that that's a completely ludicrous idea, but
Well, of course, of course it is.
No, let's not mind that. But we've spoken about the environmental and the ecological themes in this film, but we also have, as we've already spoken about, the family drama that is playing out here. And for me, that element of it just didn't work at all, because I get this idea that Carl Chandler and Vera Farmiga, been in this relationship and they've lost their son, and that's torn their relationship apart, and they've kind of gone in these different directions. But I don't quite get how that. I can kind of get how Carl Chandler just wants to kind of like opt out of everything. Vera Farmiga is like, okay, we need to find a way of controlling and engaging with them. But I don't then get how she ends up in this camp where she is actually, we're going to release them and we're going to let them stomp around the globe, potentially killing millions of people in the process as a way of resetting the world's natural order. I don't, the film just didn't lay out, like, to me, how she gets to that particular point of view where she's going to throw her hat into the ring with Charles Dance, whose logic is clearly crackpot, but how does she get there? I mean, I don't know.
The only thing I could think of is just grief and how people grieve differently over the deaths, and in this case, the death of their son. Like, you could have had a very powerful metaphor on grieving and what grieving looks like to some people. Some people kind of withdraw and they don't really allow themselves to become a part of society and share the gifts that they have. They just kind of fade away, and other people are just very outwardly, and that's all they do is kind of just want to help and fix others. And I could see a parallel to that, where in this film they're trying to do that. You know what I mean? Like, she's trying to, I want all these monsters out so they can, fight it out and destroy things and bring us back so we're all closer again. Whereas Kyle Chandler, his character is kind of like, I don't know, and then kind of re-emerging and being a part of society and offering what he has to offer. Like, there's just a couple ways they could have done it, but I think it just, again, it falls flat and it's not really much there to even go with. And even the dynamic that they have, even with, when you have Millie Bobby Brown as the daughter in there, like, you don't really have this sense of like a strong relationship between the parents and the family at all. Like, instead you just have, it feels shoehorned, like it almost wasn't enough to have the environment part. Here's this other component that also kind of half-assed. So at the end of the day, what's the sense of even having it in there? You could totally remove that plot and just have someone that's like, yeah, I'm tired of everything that's going on and I want to make a real difference, and here's how we do it. Someone instead falls into the bureaucracy of things, and someone instead goes the extreme direction and they want to make a change. You could have had that, no problem.
You mentioned Millie Bobby Brown, and she's a character that I don't understand what the film is trying to do with her. Like, there's a moment that really stuck out like a sore thumb to me in this film, where she has this moment with it's the moment she has with sort of like Monster Zero. She's been taken to that Arctic base and she sees Monster Zero frozen in the ice, and she sort of reaches out to sort of touch the ice to commune with this frozen incredible monster. Now, that makes sense in one level, in the sense of like, okay, she's awed by this incredible creature, this power that she's unable to comprehend. But that comes following the fact that 5 years earlier, her brother was killed by Godzilla. That scene comes after she's discovered that her mother is a traitor and has kind of thrown her lot in with Charles Dance. She's been kidnapped. She's seen the slaughter of all these Monarch employees, and she's having this little emotional moment with this monster. I mean, there's no logic. It doesn't make any sense. And it just, I don't know. As I say, it really stuck out like a sore thumb to me because it just encapsulated the sort of confusion of motivations that this film has for its main characters.
Yeah, it feels like there's no drive behind the character other than saying, "Hey, we have 11 from Stranger Things in this movie." That kind of feels like it, because even in other moments in the film, like, you know, towards the end of the film when she's running the signal and all of a sudden here comes, you know, King Ghidorah and Godzilla at the same time, like we see these reactions of like she's scared, then she's excited, but then she's scared again. Like there's just this very unevenness to her character that we really don't know. Is she for the monsters? Is she against the monsters? Does she just want the good monsters to win, the bad monsters to win? Because if I'm in her situation, if I see, you know, if I lose my brother over, you know, monsters fighting, I'm just anti-monsters, period.
Yeah.
So I would be more leaning towards, you know, spending or being with my dad and figuring other stuff instead of being with mom. So even to just have that difference there, and it's not like it creates any meaningful conflict, right? She ends up just kind of running away anyway, and it's not like there was a huge fight to cause that. It wasn't like, oh, you know, you and your dad or me and your dad. There's no family drama to cause that. It's just kind of like, oh, well, we need to have something happen, so let's just have her character do it. So it feels very much like an afterthought when it comes together, if it even comes together.
Well, for me, it really doesn't come together, but there we are. I mean, this film, I think, you know, I remember very vividly going to see this the kind of the 2014 Godzilla film, and I remember a lot of the criticism of that film, which was that it was the pacing of that film, in the sense that it was kind of too slow because it hid Godzilla for, I can't remember when he sort of finally, I think it's finally sort of comes in. I mean, certainly we don't see him for the first third. I think we get a kind of a sort of a glimpse at the end of the first act. It's only really in the third act that he comes sort of full into it. And I remember not really agreeing with that particular criticism. But you know, you pays your money and you takes your choice, I guess. But this film, you know, it was interesting going back and watching this because I was remembering that watching this film, and it just feels like this film is very consciously a reaction to the response to that first Godzilla film, which was criticised for its slow approach. Because whereas this one, we get monster action straight out of the gate. So, you know, I could make a guess, but, you know, I'm here talking to you, so I might as well find out what you actually think. I mean, what's your... I guess you don't mind, just get the monsters out there from the word go. I just want to see them fight. I mean, is that kind of the camp you're in?
I'm half and half on it, to be honest with you. If it's done slowly and methodical and it's purposeful in how they introduce Godzilla and there's a reason he's kind of kept behind, I'm okay with that. My only critique of 2014's Godzilla was the Mutos. Don't give me some random creation. Give me a classic Godzilla monster. If you're bringing Godzilla back in, have somebody else in there. You know what I mean? Even if it's an Angarius or maybe Gigan's a little too fantastical, but get somebody in there where it's like, okay, we have Godzilla, he's trying to fight, and then we can introduce all these other big bads and bring them in, so on and so forth. That's fine. I don't have a problem with slow-paced films. I don't. But I do have a problem when there's no engagement within them. You can be slow and methodical, but for slow and bloated, not a fan of that. So if you want to throw the fights in there, go ahead and throw the fights in there, because traditionally with Godzilla films is you have, you know, the reintroduction of Godzilla, right, just very briefly, and then we're back. The human element, Godzilla comes out, fights, he goes away, and then at the end he comes back out and he fights again, right? So it's really a three-piece. With this film, I agree with you. I think they just wanted to have it like more often in there than not. Something's happening. There's an action beat. There's someone on the move. I feel like they're constantly on the move in this movie, and that kind of hurts the plot a little bit, because how do you go from, okay, she's in Boston at Fenway, and all of a sudden she's running to her home. Well, how fast did she run? Boston's a fairly big city. It don't look it, but it is a fairly big city to get such a distance. How does Godzilla go from waking up from an atomic bomb underneath of the sea, which is absurd? Even in theaters, I was like, all right, what are we doing, gang? But again, how do you go from bottom of the sea, atomic bomb going off, and taking a 5-minute break to look at the people that woke you up, give them a little wink, and then move on, and then boom, you're in Boston, right? There's so much pacing issues that the pace actually becomes a plot issue, and that to me kind of takes away from the film, because if all of a sudden King Ghidorah is staring down Millie Bobby Brown's character in the eye, getting ready to blast her with some lightning, and then we're getting hit with Godzilla's beam, we should hear it. Because all throughout that film and the other films, we hear the cranking and the gearing up because that's part of the excitement. That's part of what had me almost in tears that the 2014 Godzilla, hearing that energy beam ramp up, I'm like, it's going to happen. I get to see this on the big screen finally, and boom, there's the payoff, right? But with this one, the pacing, I think, ends up hurting them.
Well, for me, it's not the pacing for me that is the problem. It's a tone issue. There are some Godzilla films that I really like. The original Godzilla, rightly a classic, and that's a serious film. Right. And there are some of the Godzilla films that are very silly, but I like them as well. Like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, incredibly silly. I'll never tire of hearing characters bang on about space titanium. That's very silly. I really enjoy that. Whereas this film, it feels to me like a terrible fusion between very serious and very silly. So it's both stupid and self-important, and that for me just feels like a terrible combination, because you have all these really big, weighty societal issues around climate change. Within the film, you have this like supposedly heavyweight family drama, but then you have like an absolute ton of really dumb stuff within this film. You mentioned that scene where Godzilla sinks to the bottom of the ocean, and Ken Watanabe has to go and recharge him with a nuclear bomb as if he's some kind of rechargeable battery, which is just a sort of it's extraordinary moment. You have things in this film. Sally Hawkins' death scene has to be one of the worst I think I've ever seen in any kind of movie. She just gets stomped on. That's it. Like, we've got no time to mourn her death. We're just moving on without it. There's a moment towards the end of the film where we have the Exposition News Network TV channel updating us to some of the goings on within it, and like nobody has taken a moment to even think about like the tone. So we know that like capitals across the world are on fire. They've been leveled by these titans that are on the loose, and the newsreader on this channel is like reporting on this as if they're giving like an update from a sports event, not as if the world is facing the prospect of its very imminent demise. And it's just like, is no one sort of looking at the script and kind of realizing what are people meant to be thinking, what are people meant to be feeling at this moment? Let's make sure that the actors pitch their performance to hit the right tone or beat at that moment. So yeah, I just found that there were just so many, for me, dumb moments within this film that I just couldn't forgive King of the Monsters for being the film that it is.
And it's funny because even though it doesn't work for Godzilla King of the Monsters, it works for Shin Godzilla, right? Shin Godzilla takes these...
I haven't seen that, so...
I won't get too spoilery. It takes those silly moments, but also those self-important moments, melds them together, and becomes a critique of government. And it's able to work in that form very much how the original Godzilla, right, was the critique of the industrial military complex and the atomic bomb and everything like that. It's able to kind of have that life and tell that story and be that metaphor, because it's able to walk that very fine line between silly and self-important. And I as you pointed out, this film, it doesn't do that because there's too much happening at once. If it was just a family drama, right? Okay, we can have the family drama going on behind Godzilla King of the Monsters. If it's just the eco-terrorist side of things, okay, you could have that along with the Godzilla. But to keep adding all these components in and then to shoehorn in characters, I like Bradley Whitford, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we need his character coming in and throwing in jokes like that. Like, he's written like a cartoon character. I like Charles Dance. We kind of don't need his character. You could have had to reveal that Vera Farmiga's character, she was the head behind it the whole time, and it would have been that much more riveting and exciting. You don't need to have Thomas Middleditch in there, O'Shea Jackson, David Stair. You have all of these great. CCH Pounder is in there for like 2 minutes. They wasted her potential, right? She could have been behind the whole thing. There's so many different things you could have done, but instead you just throw bodies and bodies on this, and then it just becomes a little too overwhelmed, and the human component snuffs out the magic, well, nearly the magic and might and fire of the monsters fighting, because it's Godzilla, king of the monsters, right? That's what he's there for. He's there to come and conquer and be the king. And we can't keep bouncing back and forth between all these parallel lines. There's like 4 or 5 storylines going on at once, and they just don't tie up into these nice, neat little bows.
Okay, we know you're a Godzilla fan, so I've got a little checklist of points where I want to kind of gauge your views on a few aspects of this film. So I don't want long answers, just want sort of nice, simple, short statements in response to these questions. So I've got a little sort of, as I say, little checklist of questions for you. So the Godzilla creature design, were you happy with it?
Yes.
The Godzilla roar sound effect, were you happy with it? Because I know it's evolved many times over the years. So your verdict on it here?
I'm pleased. I'm like a 9 out of 10, but I am very pleased with it.
Ooh, good. And use of the Godzilla theme?
I didn't like it. That was a huge bummer for me in this film, was the score component done by Bear McCready, which I typically like his work. He usually does very, very good work, but I think he doesn't bring what he thinks he brings to this movie.
Now let's briefly discuss something tangential to the film, because we are both music fans, and I'm always interested in the music careers of actors. Now, I did know that Vera Farmiga was married to a musician, but what I didn't know until recently was that they had actually released their first album together. They're part of a group called the Yaggers. And Nick, I got you to have a listen to their music. What did you make of them?
Not at all what I expected. I don't know what I thought it was going to be. I thought maybe rock or maybe some kind of indie thing, as actors are more wont to do than not, is be a little indie. I didn't know that it was going to go like this very dark, quasi typo negative kind of feel. Because
it's very goth rock, isn't it? It's very much in that
insanely
field.
goth rock, like absurdly goth rock, and her voice is actually really good. Like I was impressed. Musically, I think there could be a little work done on the production side of things, and the sound could have been a little bit better, if I'm being honest. But I completely thrown off and by the whole experience of it. Would I listen to it on the regular? I don't think so, but I'd be like, hey, listen to this. Guess who's singing? Like, it's definitely one of those albums where I want to tell more people about the band.
Well, I was yeah, I mean, I wasn't terribly taken by by the music. There were some moments where it gets quite heavy, actually kind of, goes beyond rock into sort of more metal territory. And, that's the music that I initially sort of grew up getting into. So, I was kind of digging those moments a little bit more. But there's some synth, there's quite a lot of synth here that, I have a complicated relationship with synths, yeah. Nick, and I wasn't particularly digging the synth work that was here, but okay. More broadly than that, I was just struggling a little bit, with this type of music, this sort of, very much sort of goth tinged music. I just associate it with, people's teenage years and something, something that you probably slowly grow out of in your 20s. Yeah. So the idea that we have, Vera Farmiga, a woman in her 50s, like launching her music career with a goth rock album, it just feels like, look, lady, you're 35 years too late. You should have been doing this years ago.
Ooh. It does feel a little behind the times. If this album would have come out in like 92, 93, completely different story. But it comes out, like you said, 35 years too late. And it's just kind of like, okay.
Or if she was doing this music like 35 years ago and she's still doing it now, well then okay, fine.
Yeah.
You've got the lineage, you've got the history to be able to be making this music. But yeah, to come out at her, maybe I shouldn't be so ageist, Nick, but I'm just telling you what I think, for right or wrong. To come out at this stage in her life with her debut in this particular musical genre, I was just like, what's going on here? I would have thought your emotional development would be a little further along by now. But
like when Christopher Lee, right? When he put out his heavy metal albums, at least it's in that vein of like, okay, I'm not saying he's like Dio, but that very much like storytelling type metal. Right?
Yeah.
Where we're in there with like goblins and demons and warriors and stuff like that. I can get behind that with Christopher Lee. But it was just so out of left field, because a name like the Yagas, like, okay, to me that's indie rock. That's an indie rock kind of name, something kind of poppy and fun. And then all of a sudden it comes on and it's like, not it at all. Like, it just very very different, very, very unexpected. And I'm sure that there's some people that are going to listen to it and really dig it. Again, your typo negatives, or maybe even those that like the slower Deftones type songs, but not as heavy, might get into it. But just, again, really thrown off. I mean, really thrown off.
okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be looking at the exploding helicopter action.
Who else but crazy men would film their crimes?
Two visitors are about to bring America
I want to know who these guys are, and I want to know now.
to its knees
They had a video camera, and I just wanted them to get out of here.
in prime time. Now,
If it bleeds, it leads.
two of New York's finest
Going down! Go!
must stop the madness.
Will of the Hunt.
Robert De Niro, Edward Burns.
You want headlines? You want to be a celebrity? Shoot me!
15 minutes. Rated R.
We're back, and now we're looking at the exploding helicopter action. This occurs near the end of the film as our heroes are trying to evacuate Millie Bobby Brown from Boston amidst a brawl between Godzilla and Ghidorah. A parked Osprey rotorcraft gets stomped on, and a few minutes later, a Black Hawk helicopter gets swatted by Ghidorah, sending it crashing into the ground and exploding. Nick, what did you make of the exploding helicopter action?
I think these exploding helicopters fall into that category of just give me a little bit more, because a lot of it is in the dark. A lot of it is sometimes blink and you miss it, but the explosions, that's where it comes and gets you. That's where the meat of it is, and I'm here for it. But again, I want a little bit more from them.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, I guess my issue, or one of my issues with the first exploding helicopter, and well, before I go any further, I should say that there are some, I don't know if pedants is the right word out there, but let's acknowledge the fact that Osprey. I just want to acknowledge the fact that Osprey aircraft are not strictly helicopters. They are rotor-tilt craft, which are a different species whatsoever. But I chose long ago to include them in my work cataloguing exploding helicopters because it looks like a helicopter and it flies like a helicopter. So that's essentially why I include Ospreys in my work cataloguing exploding helicopters. But that said, I mean, my issue with that particular exploding helicopter is, it wasn't clear to me who stomps on that Osprey. Is it Godzilla or is it Ghidorah? I mean, I think it's Godzilla just because of the angle of the legs and who, from other shots, the sort of the direction of the tussle that we're witnessing. I think it's Godzilla, but I don't know if you were clear in your mind as to who is responsible for crushing that helicopter.
I'm inclined to agree with you. If we could see some toe, or I guess in this case, claw, you know what I mean? To get an idea of what direction that's going, I think we'd have a better idea. But I would agree with you. I think it's G-Man.
Well, we often talk about actors who appear in large numbers of films with exploding helicopters, but It's interesting to be doing this film because we can also look at that from a point of view of like fictional characters who appear in the most number of films with exploding helicopters. And I thought that you would be interested to know that Godzilla is ranks very highly in terms of the fictional characters who appears in films with exploding helicopters. He actually appears in the second most films. James Bond appears in 10 films with an exploding helicopter. Godzilla appears in 11, and the leading character who has appeared in the leading fictional character who's appeared in the most films with an exploding helicopter is I don't know if you've ever come across him. It's a kind of a sort of gentleman thief character from France called Lupin. He's had a very long career in various media, in obviously firstly in books, then in television, then in a whole series of animations stretching back from the 70s, 80s into the 90s and even noughties, and more recently a Netflix TV series. He's the character that appears in the most films, being in 14 films so far. So Godzilla's got a little work to do, so be interesting to see if he can overtake him. But I thought I would interest you with that little nugget of facts.
But here's the thing, and this kind of harkens back to our previous conversation, an episode or two ago, depending on when this drops, on quality versus quantity, right? The quality of the second exploding helicopter in this film, I think, should equal a couple different, and putting him closer to that Lupin number, right? The second exploding helicopter in this film, you know what it does that I don't think I've seen other exploding helicopters do in film?
Tell me.
There's audio debris, right?
Audio debris?
You think it sounds crazy, but hear me out. When the copter is struck, right, hit by the monster, spins to the ground, we cut back to inside of the tank Humvee car, then we cut back out, and we get the explosion as the car drives past it, right? When that explosion happens, if you have a surround sound system, the audio actually ripples across the screen from one speaker to the other. And we don't get a lot of that because oftentimes with the exploding helicopters, they're far away. We're not as up close as we can be.
Yep.
And if we are, it's usually the copter's just coming straight down on us. But this one, because of how the vehicle drives, we get that audio kind of jump, and it's really kind of cool. It caught me off guard for a second. I'm like, wait a minute, I had to rewind a little bit and then play it through again. And it's this like kind of... guttural's not the word, but it's in that similar vein, and it, like I said, it just kind of ripples across. And again, it's not every day you get a verbal debris, and it's not one of those like flying overhead things. Like we kind of go through and kind of chomp on that debris as if we are the vehicle driving through that explosion. And I thought that was just like really, really cool and a nice touch and something a little bit different.
That does sound very cool. I want to go away and experience that. Definitely. I have to upgrade my sound system. I just go with the speakers on the side of my TV, Nick. So I'm a troglodyte, a sonic troglodyte.
I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to audio, so I'll admit I am a snob.
Well, there was a very cool moment in this film. It wasn't sonic, it wasn't audio. It was a visual moment, which is when it does involve a helicopter. Sadly, it doesn't explode, but it was enough for me that it involved the helicopter when Ghidorah sends all that electricity out from his like wings or his arms, and electrocutes all of these aircraft that are above in the sky. And there's this shot where we see the aircraft that have just had all of their, like, they've just been kind of completely fried, and so they are now just plummeting directly down towards the ground. And one of the aircraft that falls down is this helicopter that we just see falling straight down from the sky. The rotor blades aren't spinning or anything, and it's just, I don't think I've ever seen like a helicopter just plummet straight to the ground without in a completely lifeless way. And it was just, I just really loved that particular moment. And as a helicopter film fan, it was a cool moment for me.
Yeah, and you're not getting that with the Detective Lupin or whoever he is. You know what I mean? Again, quality over quantity. Like I'm telling you, man.
Well, hey Nick, don't knock it, because you're going to be sitting here reviewing every one of those 14 films with me.
I'm not going to lie, and I'm not just saying this to be rude. That's probably the only reason I would watch those movies. Because I never even heard the character until you brought it up just now.
Well, I have to go away and school you in them. But I think it's time that we wrap things up for this show. Nick, before you go, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, if you just head over to rabbitholepodcasts.com, you can check out 2 programs that I'm a part of. Play MST for Me, where we're watching episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and of course Lyrical Innuendo, Bubba Weed, and myself. We're taking a listen to some songs and figuring out what the lyrics are really about.
As always, don't forget to check out the Exploding Helicopter website for more reviews and information about helicopter explosions in film. If you can help spread the word about what we do by leaving a rating or review, we'd be immensely grateful. We'll be back soon, but until then, what should people do, Nick?
Keep watching the skies for those exploding helicopters. This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
And I can only imagine what you're all thinking.
But if there were any other way to do this, I would.
Do what, Emma?
I'm saving the world.
But by releasing those things, that doesn't make sense.
As impossible as it seems, it does.